Hey everybody, welcome to another coaster report. If you haven't seen the last coaster report, you should probably go check that one out for a little bit of context. But just as a reminder, recently got back from a trip to Virginia. Jordan and I went to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, and Kings Dominion. Last time we did a report on my experience at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, and today we're going to talk a little bit about Kings Dominion. So we were there Friday afternoon and Saturday afternoon. Pretty dead on Friday. So that was a real good time. A little bit busier on Saturday, as to be expected. But still managed to ride a lot of stuff. And let's talk a little about it. So, just as a little bit of background, as usual, neither of us had been to Kings Dominion before, but we had both been to Kings Island a lot, especially this year. And they're very similar parks in a lot of ways. A lot of similar rides, sort of similar layout, similar history. Some similar theming, different coaster lineups a little bit, but so it's interesting going to this park where everything is just a little bit different from what you are used to, I guess, compared to Kings Island. So, but it was a real good time. We had a lot of fun at the 2 days that we were there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through, and just like last time, I'm going to go through all the rides I went on, worst to best, vaguely, and I'll tell you all about my experiences. Starting off with my least favorite ride of the trip, and that was Racer 75, the old school classic wooden racing coaster. Very similar to Racer at Kings Island, except this one is a lot rougher. The Racer at Kings Island has got some retracking work done recently, I believe. So it's been very smooth this year. Did not have that experience on Racer 75. The first two hills were pretty good, and then after that it was just awful. Really thrashes you around. Not a lot of fun. I rode in the back, which is probably not a good place to experience a smooth wooden coaster, but even still, it was just not very pleasant. And yeah, also, not a knock against the coaster itself, but they only were running one side at the beginning of the day when I rode it. And that's never as fun as when they're running both sides. As soon as I got off, they had booted up the other side and were running both of them. And I could have gotten immediately back in line to do the other side, and I was like, I'm good. I don't need to experience that one again. So, not a big fan of Racer, unfortunately. All right, next on our list, Snoopy's Rocket Express. This one is also comparable to a ride at Kings Island, Wigstock's Whirlybirds. It's a little monorail that goes around the kiddie area. It's called a monorail, even though it's got two rails. I don't know what's up with that. But you're in little rocket cars instead of a helicopter. Seats more people, but they aren't covered like the helicopters are. So you're out in there in the blazing sunshine, which isn't quite as fun. But still not bad. You get a nice view of the kiddie area, which is fun, but that's about it. There's not any hills or anything, so it's fine. Not a lot going for it, but if you've got little kids that like this kind of thing, then sure. All right, my second least favorite coaster today, Zapple. I did have to make sure I rode this one because I had up to this point never been on a wild mouse coaster before, so I never experienced one. So I figured I'd give it a shot and see how I liked it. And it turns out I didn't. This kind of coaster is just not for me. It has a couple big-ish drops. There's one big first drop at the beginning and a couple smaller drops near the end. But all those tiny tight turns in the middle, they just don't do it for me. It's just a lot of laterals. You're going very slow. And I don't really understand the point. I don't know. Didn't do it for me. Maybe I'll try another. I would like to try another wild mouse at some point in the future. Maybe I'd like it better on a different day. Who can say? But yeah, no real good things for me to say about Zapple, unfortunately. It looks cool though. It's a cool looking ride. I will say that. All right, next on my list we have Grizzly, the large wooden coaster at Kings Dominion. This one gets a lot of flack, I think, for being a bad ride. I think a lot of people hate Grizzly. I didn't hate it as much as everyone else seems to. I didn't like it very much. But it was still pretty rough. I think I thought I read that they recently retracked some of it, but it was still very bumpy, very rough, thrashes you around again like Racer does. But it's got a better layout at least. It's cool to go back in the woods. But other than that, you know, pretty standard wooden coaster, double out and back layout. Not a lot to say about it. It's rough. Needs some more maintenance. But I'm glad they still have it. I'm glad they're keeping it around. Hopefully they can, you know, continue to do maintenance on it and keep it in good shape. All right. Snack time. Just a little break from coasters. While we were there on both days, we managed to get some Rita's ice. Like I said, it was very hot. And when it's real hot out, you need some cooling refreshments. And Rita's ice was pretty awesome. I don't think I'd ever had this before. And they were real tasty. When you're hot and dehydrated, a lot of sugar water, a lot of frozen sugar water really hits the spot. And after we had some ices, we were feeling real refreshed. It was great. Good flavor variety at Rita's. They had black cherry when we were there on Friday, which I got, which is real tasty. And then the next day, they replaced it with Swedish fish. Different kind of cherry, but tasted just like Swedish fish. It was pretty cool. So I was a big fan of that. And we had this one in Hilliard. Maybe, I don't know. I cannot say for sure. I think it was the first time in my memory that I had them. Maybe, I don't think I've had these before, but real tasty. Would Rita again. All right, next on my list. Oh, there's one in Westerville? Okay, well, good to know. There's no reason to go out there and get them on purpose, but... all right, next on my list, Anaconda, the classic aero looper from '91. It's been a while since I've been on one of the big aero loopers. I think the only other real big one I've been on is Viper at Darien Lake. And this one's kind of comparable to that. You got some nice tall inversions, some corkscrews. It does the aero thing. And this one wasn't bad. I was surprised that it wasn't very rough at all. You know, it helps that it's a bit of a newer coaster from 1991. So, you know, newer for aero at least. And, you know, comparing it directly to Loch Ness the day before, where I gotten really thrashed around. And it wasn't bad. I didn't hate it. It's got some cool elements on it. Like the first drop goes underground into a little tunnel under this pond, which is very cool. And I was pleasantly surprised that the corkscrews don't actually murder you. Maybe it's because they're going a little bit slow. But comparing them to like corkscrews, to your point, where you absolutely get destroyed going through those corkscrews, these ones are actually quite smooth. Felt pretty nice. A lot of fun. So do recommend Anaconda. Not bad. For an aero. All right, our next ride, Blue Ridge Tollway, the antique car ride. We've been meaning to go on the antique car ride at Kings Island for a while, but there's always a huge line when we're around, so we haven't gone on it yet. So this is the first antique car ride I've been on in a very long time, probably since I was a kid. And this is definitely one of the better ones. The ones at Cedar Point and Kings Island, the track just like goes in a little loop around a very small plot with not a lot to look at. But the one at King's Dominion is real nice. It's a very large plot of land that it lives out on. Track's a little bit more spread out. You got a lot of trees and things to look at. You get a bit more view of the park as you go around. So it's nice. It's just a little car ride, so, you know, nothing too crazy. But comparatively speaking, this one was pretty good for a car ride. All right, next up, we got Tumbili, the brand spanking new SNS free spin coaster. And I had never ridden a coaster like this before. It was a very strange experience. I don't know if you could even really... I mean, it is a coaster, don't get me wrong. It doesn't feel like one when you're riding it, though. It's got a vertical chain lift. You're sitting in a little wing-style car. And then you don't have a roll drop. You just have a bunch of little bunny hills, basically. And sometimes flip upside down. I only flipped upside down once. The people who were sitting across from me, I think, flipped upside down a little bit more. I think they said like 3 times. So your mileage may vary on what your ride experience is on a ride like this. I don't know if it really makes a huge difference. But anyway, I thought I was gonna hate this. I thought I was gonna feel real awful when I got off of it, but I didn't. I actually didn't hate it, which maybe that's not the best you can say about it, but it wasn't bad, and I would ride it again. I only managed to get one ride on it because after I went on it, we had other stuff we wanted to get done, and then it was a little bit too busy on Saturday. But not bad for sure. Kind of a weird coaster for sure. It was close for a bit. Probably. There were points during the whole day where, I mean, the reliability overall at King's Dominion was pretty good. I don't think we really had any major downtime on anything that we wanted to ride. I do remember seeing Tumbili down on the app like once, but you know, wasn't a big deal. But other than that, I think ops, as far as uptime, was really good. All right, next on my list, Reptilian, the 1988 bobsled. Oh, that's right, Twisted Timbers was down Friday morning. Not morning. The park opened at noon. Twisted Timbers didn't open until probably a couple hours later, but we had other stuff to do, so it was fine. Anyway, so Reptilian, the bobsled. I'd only ever ridden one other bobsled in my life, and that is Disaster Transport. Rest in peace. So it was fun to get on another one of these. Different manufacturer, different layout, different style, but still. And it was fun. Jordan and I got to ride this together. We don't ride a lot of rides together, but this one we got on at the same time. And the cars do fit two people, but if you want to ride with somebody else, make sure you're dating them, because you get right up close to each other. You get real snuggly in those little cars. So don't ride this one with, you know, your cousin or something. It's like being in a hammock together. Yeah, you sit in each other's laps. So usually you're seeing one person per car. But anyway, it's a pretty fun ride. A lot of helixes, as you would expect for a bobsled. So, you know, not a lot of hills, not a lot of airtime, obviously, because that's the way these rides work. A little unfortunate that we got really stopped by the mid-course break. Stopped a lot of energy out of the ride halfway through, but not a huge deal. I thought it was pretty fun. Definitely one that I feel like I would want to ride at least once every time I go. So, fun coaster. All right. I think this is the last slide before the top three. And so we're going to talk a little bit about lunchtime. And so before we went, I looked up, you know, I wanted to find out which places in the park were the best to get lunch at, and I was recommended Grain and Grill. So we checked it out on Friday, and we liked it so much. We ate there again on Saturday because it was so good. So they have some meat options and they have a bunch of side options. They're all vegetarian, and as we usually try to eat pretty vegetarian, so it worked out very nicely for us. But you can really mix and match different stuff, and it was really tasty. Everything we ate was delicious. They had some freshly grilled naan, and just vegetables. You know, when you're at a theme park, it's hard to get some good vegetables in. I talked about this our Busch Gardens trip report, but like, it's too easy just to eat junk food all day and like greasy snack foods and things. So getting your vegetables is important, and they got them there, and they were all really tasty. So we ate there twice because we liked it so much, and I don't know. It was a good time, real tasty. Highly recommended. All right, so it's time to go to the top three. Top three rides. You notice I did omit a couple coasters. I'll talk about those at the end with the Do Not Ride slide, which unfortunately has to show up again. I did set up a little prediction poll before we started to seeing what people thought would be my top King's Dominion coaster. And looks like we got 2 votes for Dominator, 1 vote for Intimidator 305, and no votes for Twisted Timbers, which is a little surprising. But anyway, let's continue on here. Twisted Timbers did make my top 3, but only number 3. This is the RMC hybrid that replaced Hurler a few years ago. And having my expectations be managed by Steel Vengeance, is your point. It's hard to, for me personally, to like really love Twisted Timbers just because I'm thinking like, hey, it's not Steel Vengeance, you know. But it is quite a good ride because it's a little bit shorter. It's not quite as fast, but it takes a lot of its layout very close to the ground. It pretty much sticks to the old Hurler layout, which I think was a good call. But it's mostly a bunch of little ejector bunny hills, which aren't great with the restraints because it really jams the lap bar in your thighs, which is not very comfortable. But still fun layout, nice and fast. All the inversions are really good. They're very smooth. There's a really nice stall, which doesn't thrash me around as much as it does as the one on Steel Vengeance does. That was nice. Very comfortable inversions, which I was not expecting. So that was good. But yeah, really fun ride. I liked it a lot. I did ride front and back, and I want to say it's hard to say which is best. Probably front, just because you don't get quite as much violent ejector in a good view. But either way, the lines were so good that if you're there on a weekday like I was, it's pretty easy to just get a couple different seats and see what you like. All right, number 2, Dominator. My baby, my one true love. So if you don't know me, I'm a huge Jog Lake fanboy because we lived pretty close to Jog Lake growing up here in Ohio, and Dominator was the best roller coaster at Jog Lake before it closed. And I have a lot of good memories of riding Dominator when I was a kid in the early mid 2000s. My biggest problem with Twister was that too much ejector. It hurts because it jams the lap bar into your legs, and I don't like that very much. I like floater more than ejector. Give me some nice floater like on the B&M Hypers. That's good stuff. Ejector is a bit too violent. I don't know. So anyway, but Dominator. Anyway, back to the point at hand. Dominator was one of my favorite coasters, and I hadn't ridden it in I don't know how many years now, since they moved it from Jog Lake to Kings Dominion. I hadn't been to Kings Dominion, so it's been like probably 15, 16 years since I rode this thing, and I've been looking forward to it for a very long time. And happy to say that it runs amazing. I had so much fun on this. I was so glad to get back on it and ride it some more. It's the nostalgia for me. Maybe that was a big part of why I like it so much, but it's still a really good ride. It's got a lot of fun elements in it. It's got like one of the biggest vertical loops in the world, which is really cool. You get a lot of hang time on that, which is good. The corkscrews aren't terrible. The mid-course is actually one of the best elements because you get some nice air time coming off the mid-course brake run because it drops you immediately down into a little hill. So that's always one of my favorite parts for some reason. But yeah, I love this coaster. Managed to get 4 rides on it, and I would be perfectly happy to just ride this all day long. Oh, where's my mug? Oh, that's right. We did get a mug. Jordan bought me a Dominator mug. They were on sale too. I think it's in the dishwasher right now. I haven't used it yet. I know it's weird to say the mid-course is one of the best elements on this ride, and it sounds like a dig, but it's true because when you come off, you get a really good pop of airtime. It's great. It's really fun, and I've always liked it. Okay, so that means my number 1 coaster at Kings Dominion is Intimidator 305. And I knew going into the park that I was going to like this one. I didn't know that I was going to like it quite as much as I did. But this coaster is amazing. It's got everything I could ever want in a coaster, basically. It's really tall, obviously. So you've got a lot of speed. It goes like 90, I think, coming off that first drop, something like that. So you got some really good speed. I love a lot of good speed on roller coasters. And then it maintains that speed through the whole layout, basically, because it's all very low to the ground. You've got some nice whippy transitions I really enjoyed. It's a little bit of like a mix of Millennium Force and Maverick, if you've ridden those, I guess. You got the height and speed of Millennium, and then like the real almost violent kind of layout that Maverick has, where it, you know, just kind of thrashes you around, but it doesn't do it in a painful way, which is really cool. At least I didn't find the restraints to be uncomfortable. I've heard some people complain about the restraints, but I didn't mind them at all. Yeah, I had a really good time on this one. Grayed out on that first turn all 3 times I rode it. A lot of fun. I think pretty much everybody grays out on it. Make sure you stay hydrated so you don't black out on that curve. But yeah, you get some really intense G-forces on this thing, and I think I've said it before, intensity and G-forces are one of the things I like on coasters if they're applied in the right way, and this applies in all the right ways for me. So excellent, amazing coaster. Very happy to ride this one. Plus all the lines are always really short, because apparently the general public doesn't like it so much, I guess, which is good for people like me, because you can just kind of lap it over and over again, and it's a good time. All right, that's it for the rides. Yeah, Phoenix, you won the prediction. Congratulations. I think you're the only person who predicted I-305. Enjoy your points. All right, and now the sad slide for the did not ride. Like I said before, King's Dominion has a lot of clones of coasters. They have King's Island, which I've ridden all of. So I wasn't there to credit whore. I was there to have fun. So I didn't try to get in every single coaster. So we didn't ride Backlot, Stunt Coaster. Line was pretty long for that all day anyway. Same thing with Flight of Fear. Line's always really long for that, so I didn't want to bother. Apparently the Flight of Fear at King's Dominion is worse than the one at King's Island anyway, from what I've heard. Great Pumpkin Coaster, still can't ride it because I don't have a baby. I already talked about Racer 75, didn't really feel like it. And then Woodstock Express. We probably could have done Woodstock Express because they were running 2 trains on that thing. And they were really cranking people through, but I think we were just too worn out at the end of Saturday. We just wanted to get going. Eiffel Tower is closed, which is very sad because I love going up the Eiffel Tower and looking at the park below me. It's some really good views, but didn't get to happen. And then we were thinking about going on Americana, which is the Ferris wheel at King's Dominion. So Dominator is not the only ride that they got from Jog Lake. Americana is also originally from Jog Lake and still runs today at King's Dominion. And we were thinking about going on it just for funsies, but it was a little bit too hot, and we figured we'd probably get tired and gross and sweaty up there, and we didn't really want to wait for that to happen. It was satisfying enough just to, you know, go up to it, get some photos. Glad to see that it's still spinning away over at King's Dominion. People didn't talk about when they weren't able to see when the photo was. Yeah, I don't know when the photo is. I think it's about a third of the way through. It's after I'm done graying out. But if you black out for the whole ride, then yeah, you're not going to see it. All right. That's kind of it. So as usual, just some general thoughts about King's Dominion. Overall, had a great time. Really awesome park. If you like King's Island, you'll like King's Dominion. Like I said, they're very similar, but they're both very good parks. I feel like King's Island probably has a slightly better coaster lineup than King's Dominion does, but King's Dominion definitely has some higher highs than King's Island, if it's not as like consistent across the board. One note, good to see Cedar Fair continuing to step up their theming game. We've been seeing this at King's Island a little bit as well, with some of the theming. Cedar Fair is historically been pretty bad at theming, but they've been doing better the last few years, which is nice. That there's the jungle area where Reptilian and Tumbili are, recently got a refresh, I think, for this season, and it looks really nice. There's a lot of good scenery, and the building decorations are really well done, so that was good to see. It's enjoyable as always. Just kind of walk around and look at stuff. You know, it's hard when you're competing with Busch Gardens an hour away, one of the most beautiful parks in the world. So I've heard. At least one of the most beautiful parks in the United States. There's probably a lot of European parks that are hard to compete with. But anyway, so they're making progress when it comes to Cedar Fair parks. So I do enjoy that quite a bit. Similarly, inconsistent amounts of shade. Like I said, it was very hot. It was very sunny, and a lot of Cedar Fair parks are, you know, pretty low on shade. There's more trees here than usual, than we're used to. So that was real nice. But you know, very hot sunny days in Virginia. You need to make sure you're staying cool because it's really easy to get, you know, dehydrated, and you don't want to get sunstroke and all that stuff. So. Like I said a second ago, it needs a couple more great rides to level us up with Kings Island. Their top coasters are really good, but some of their bottom coasters are not so good. And maybe this is because I'm used to Kings Island, went there first. So everything at Kings Dominion feels like all the clone coasters, they just feel kind of like throwaways to me, which is unfair, but that's how it is for me, I guess. I feel like you could use one or two more like good rides, and I think it would really elevate their status a bit. But then again, those top three, it's hard to argue with those and the satisfaction I got out of them. Oh, and Jordan wanted me to add, or an Aero mine train. You know, if we can get Aero to build them a new mine train, or even a regular train. We always have a lot of fun riding the train rides, like I talked about at Busch Gardens. Train ride there is really fun. Get to see a lot of fun stuff. Just, you know, a couple more milder rides would be nice. But still, that being said, real happy with Kings Dominion. Had a great time. We'll definitely try to go back at some point. You know, Virginia's a pretty far drive for me, but if I'm ever in the area again, I do recommend checking it out. That's it. I think that's all I have to say about Kings Dominion. Again, this is a two-parter, so if you missed the early one about our trip to Busch Gardens, make sure you check that one out as well. But I think that's going to do it for this edition of the Coaster Report, so thanks for watching.